We're going to be walking through how we are building these deck stringers, stair stringers for our little outdoor deck here. And I've been learning a lot. Haven't done this before, so I just want to share with you guys what I've learned and hope it helps you. So basically, I used an online stair calculator tool to figure out what the rise and run should be. This is the tread. These are the risers. Your treads are always basically going to be 10 inches or plus or minus that amount, and then the risers kind of depend on the thickness of the boards you're going to be putting on top of this thing. In my case, I'm going to be putting on some composite deck stuff, so they're about 1 inch tall, and basically you're just kind of aiming to have between 6-7 inches of riser total height, so for each one of these guys. So that's that. The way I assembled this, I didn't use any of the joist hangers. Instead, what I did is I just used a 2x4, and then we've got our two kind of end stringers right here where they actually have just a butt joint, and these are just 2 3-inch deck screws that are screwing into a 2x4 right here. This is all pressure treated stuff. And then I also used it's a lot cheaper if you cut the tape yourself into like what you need, so inch and a half thickness. But this is the flashing tape for windows, and then we just cut it, and it was only like 17 bucks for like a 50-foot 6-inch roll. So you can cut that, and that's basically 200 feet of 1.5 inch stuff. Anyway, but yeah, that's how we did that part. I have some 5-inch lag screws that basically hold the 2x4 cleat, I believe is what this is called, into some 4x4 blocking that I have behind all this stuff, behind these two 2x8s. And then the stringers are made out of 2x10. You could also go to 2x12, but for our purposes it works. And on the base of our stairs right here too, I poured concrete, and it is about 4 inches thick. So the rule of thumb is you want your concrete screws to be even longer than what you need. So in my case, 4 inches thickness of this thing plus 1.5 inches from the 2x4 means that you're going to want at least like a 5.5 inch screw. So these are 6-inch Simpson concrete anchor bolts. They look like this, and you just drive it all the way through. And then I have a rotary hammer here with a 1/2 inch bit on it to get those in place. And yeah, now the fun, easy part that everyone likes to talk about is just putting the actual boards on top of this thing. But honestly, the hard part was just doing all the measuring and cutting. I really recommend like a right-handed saw if you're right-handed like me, so you can see exactly where you're cutting, because this is a ton of just cuts. You also want to make sure that you have at least 3.5 inches of meat on this thing, even when you get to your lowest point, for integrity. But yeah, so basically the other thing is, to cut all these stringers, they're all the same. The two outside ones, I didn't modify them at all, but the inner ones, what I did is you cut an extra inch and a half off of the piece right here, so it sits in line with all the other guys. And then down here, I just made a notch for the 2x4 that would sit in all of these things. So the inner stringers are different than the two outer ones that just have the butt joints to hold them into the 2x4 here. But this is super strong, and I really like how it's secured both at the base and at the header board, or whatever we're gonna call this, ledger board of the deck. This is just one of the joists, but yeah, just wanted to kind of make this to show how I like this design. And we didn't have to buy a bunch of joist hangers and do weird notches in these things, although that's pretty strong too. But while you have this thing, it's basically, if I took out these lag screws and these concrete bolts, this whole thing is just one assembly that comes off. And yeah, so each one of these guys, for the 2x4 behind it, while I was assembling this whole thing, you just drill those 2 3-inch deck screws into each one of these guys. So you've got connections to all those. And then same thing here on the cleat for the baseboard. Again, just 2 3-inch screws into each one of these guys to hold it in 2 locations. You got a really strong structure on its own, and it's held in place at the top and the bottom, which I really like. So this is how I recommend doing it. And yeah, and I'm gonna start backfilling this stuff, and might do a little retaining wall here just to keep the dirt off the little, you know, concrete first step, whatever. But yeah, and then lots of joist tape or flashing tape to protect this thing, because water, when it rains, is going to get underneath this thing and try to rot it. So just to make this thing last as long as I can. Also on the face of all these boards here. Yeah, that's how it all looks before I start slapping in all these composite boards and making it look pretty. But yeah, thanks for watching.